what would happen at DR, right? We had a ton of campaigns, man. We had like 200 campaigns, 400 campaigns in a single day.
All right, so let's take a moment to summarize everything we have discussed. You looked at the specific metrics, cost per play and the cost per pitch,
Checkout and sale.
in that order to try to reduce spending. And after that, what else did you look at? You mentioned there was something about timing and so on. What else did you pay attention to that's different from what most people talk about? We're focusing on breaking away a bit from the standard approach that most people use, right? Oh, creative testing, ABO, we'll talk about that later, but let's get into what's really different, what we used to do there, which really set us apart.
At the time, we had this insight. Actually, since I have pretty bad ADHD, I never remember things that just happened. So, for example, the traffic manager at DR, he used to optimize. At the time, this is how we did it. We would optimize every hour. So for instance, at 11 a.m., we'd do an optimization, increase the budget here, kill off some campaigns there. Then, okay, at noon again, then at 1 in the afternoon. But what would happen with me? What would happen at DR, right? We had a ton of campaigns, man. We had like 200 campaigns, 400 campaigns in a single day. Me, man, how am I supposed to remember how the campaign was doing? What was the rows of campaign B in the previous hour? I'm not going to remember, man. I said, dude, I'm screwed, man. How am I supposed to increase the budget of a campaign if I don't even know if it performed well in the last hour? Because it had 3 sales at 10 a.m. Then I check at 11, the ROAS is good, but it still only has 3 sales. I don't know if it's sold or not in this last hour. That was the problem. I don't remember if it's sold or not. I said, man, how am I supposed to increase the budget or not? The ROAS is good, okay? It's a ROAS of 5. Should I keep increasing it even though there haven't been any sales? That doesn't make sense to me. How can I increase it if it hasn't sold?
That's important too. That's important because generally, what's the flow of the market? Including what I taught him at the time. Man, if you have a ROAS of 2, ROAS of 3, keep increasing the budget. But in practice, so people can understand the insight, where did this pain point come from, right? In practice, what used to happen? If you run ads, you've probably seen this happen. There are creatives that, I don't know, make 3 or 4 sales while scaling and are already giving you 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 raise in profit. Then you start increasing the budget and you see that you end up giving back all those 3,000 raise in profit and you end up breaking even. So it was something that we started to notice, like, man, just from 4 or 5 campaigns, here we lost. Yeah, 1,000 rees here, 2,000 there, 800 over there, 3,000 somewhere else. We'd lose 10, 15,000 rees in a single day. We missed out on earning it, right?
Missed earning it.
Actually, we lost it because we had already earned it. It's like during the day, it feels like it's a mindset, kind of like trading, right? Yeah,
It's trading.
you only think you've won when the day is over, when you've locked in the profit. But actually, you already lost, I don't know, 5, 10, depending on the scale at the time.
Every day you look at all the days of the month when
Looking daily, you just go, wow. No, and another thing, we lost 100,000 rees here just because, and it's
a double-edged sword, because besides the bad campaigns where you lost money because you kept increasing the budget, the good campaigns, which sometimes had a ROAS of 2.5 but were selling, you didn't increase. In other words, you also missed out on earning more from the good campaigns.
yeah, because the guy is at 2.5. There, the campaign with Jogastano kept selling, stayed at 2.5.
Instead of increasing, you kept it the same,
Yes,
which was a campaign that, damn. All right, even if the ROAS drops to 2.3, 2.2, but damn, you're making a profit, man. If it's selling, increase it. You lose a little bit of margin, but you gain in the absolute profit you make. In the end,
just so you understand, there were campaigns that were at 4 and dropped to 2.5.
we're talking about ROAS here, guys.
Regarding ROAS, some campaigns started and stayed at 2.5.
Yeah.
Which is the best campaign? The one that stayed at 2.5.
It stayed consistent and kept selling throughout the day.
And it kept selling throughout the day. So with this one, you're going to crush it in sales. The one that was at 4 and dropped to 2.5 means it went a long time without selling. ROAS, when you just look at the tracker there and say ROAS of 2.5, and if you just use that snapshot like it's a photo, if you just look at the metrics, you are going to get a completely wrong impression.
You'll make the wrong decision. Or you might miss out on scaling up a campaign that was selling in the last few hours, even with lower ROAS, but it's selling really well. And then you increase the budget of a campaign that had a ROAS of 5 drop to 3, but you think it's still good and you increase the budget even more, and it didn't sell anything. Yeah.
Because it's a campaign with a 1.9 ROAS, but it already has a very high budget. It's running with a budget of 30, 40, 50,000 raise a day, but you look at a campaign with a 2.5 ROAS and few sales, and another campaign with a 1.9 or 2 ROAS but lots of sales. Which one was actually more worthwhile to scale up?
Exactly.
If you just look at the snapshot, you'd say 2.5 is much better. But if you look at the whole movie of the campaign, the story of the
Timeline, the
campaign timeline, but then what was the deal with that? We had that pain point.
right.
So how did you solve that problem there?
How did I not?
This here too, man. I think I've never heard anyone say this, honestly. I think it's just us.
This one
Man, doctors do it, right? But like this,
was awesome, man. Why did that happen? We, in our tracker, we had it hour by hour. The entire campaign history, hour by hour. Like from 9 a.m., 10 a.m., how many sales happened, how much was spent at that time, cost per play, cost per click, everything. Everything in detail, hour by hour. I said, man, if I can get this set up on a little server over there that puts it together, that builds a graph for me of the profit, instead of just looking at ROAS, just at CPM, CPA, CPC, I created a graph that showed hour by hour how much profit I made during that hour from the previous hour up to the current hour. So in the end, what did I have? A bar chart with the 24 hours of the day.
and
Then hour by hour, it would add another bar. At noon, one more bar, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. In other words, I was able to see how much profit it made in the last few hours. If there were sales, how many sales, what my CPA was for the last few hours, and most importantly, what my profit was. If campaigns that kept generating increasing profit, I would increase the budget. And campaigns where the profit was great, for example, I launched a campaign, it started running at 10 a.m., and there was already a sale. That campaign reached 2,000 reais in profit. All right, 2,000 reais, it must have a ROAS of 5.
yes,
All right, okay. Then 2 hours went by and you went to optimize. It already spent more money. It's no longer at a 2,000 profit. Now it's at a 1,000 profit. But then, damn, if you look at your manager, it's showing a ROAS of 4. What are you going to do? You're going to increase the budget. But no, man. It was at 2,000 and dropped to 1,000 raise in profit. You gave away money.
it spent 1,000 and has no sales yet.
It spent 1,000 reais without selling. Or it sold very little, I don't know, it sold junk. Anyway, that's when we started to get this idea, this sense of tracking profit hour by hour and understanding what action I would take in my campaign, whether to increase the budget, lower the budget, or pause the campaign, according to the recent history from the last few hours of the campaign. So for example, if it had 2,000 in profit in the first hour, damn, increase the budget. So right away, you already increased the budget for a campaign that's making sales. All right, another hour goes by. Did it manage to make another sale? No. All right, let's keep it as is. It's making a so-so profit, so let's keep it. Another hour goes by, no sales? Damn, then lower its budget. So I had a spreadsheet that I could look at, campaign by campaign, the chart for each one of them. And then, damn, if there were 40, 50, 100 campaigns in a day, I would do this for 100 campaigns. Back then, we didn't have all this AI that we have today. Already,
It's done in an easier way.
right? Today, it could be done in an easier way. But that's how I used to do it. I would check every hour because then that problem comes up. I couldn't remember how much it was. Boss, there's no way. And I made wrong decisions because of that.
Who here has been in traffic longer? So I even gave this tip there, but it's a pretty crude tip. What was it? Leave the manager open on one page and on the other, you go optimizing. Then when it's time to optimize, you hit F5 on one page and the other will stay static, right? Or you would take a screenshot. The method he used was, man, take a screenshot every hour so you know what the profit was for each campaign and see if it went down or not. You can see the history in the spreadsheet, the whole graph. It's much better, right?
Now that you mentioned it, I think I figured out why it stayed that way. People create campaign 01, campaign 02, so they know which one is which, right? Is that what it's for? It must be for that, right?
It has to stand out.
Like campaign 07 had this much, now it has this much. Maybe it's something along those lines? Probably. CP01, CP02?
We didn't create them like that. We kept the campaign consolidated because we looked at the campaign ID.
Exactly.
But the ID is much harder to remember, right? A huge number there with 10 digits.
That's right.
Then saying campaign 13. Today it's great. It's 13. The
Campaign
07 is great.